We interrupt with this breaking news. Scientists have figured out why ships disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. But first, we go to Hollywood, where Kim Kardashian has once again done nothing of importance.
You know, the Bermuda Triangle is one of the biggest mysteries in the world, and people have been trying to fathom it for decades. Get it? Fathom it? Wait, there's more. This region, shaped in the form of a triangle, is situated in the North Atlantic Ocean between Miami, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. The Bermuda Triangle, often called the Devil's Triangle, is infamous due to numerous mysterious and inexplicable disappearances that have happened there throughout the centuries. More than 150 planes, cargo ships, and smaller vessels have met their demise in this cursed area. And, well, a couple of years ago, scientists stated that they'd found the reason for these bizarre vanishings. The latest discovery may shed a different light on the internal enigma. Now, before you get to know the answer to the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. This way, you'll always be the first to learn about all the updates that appear daily on the bright side of life. So, if you thought that baffling ship disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle were a thing of the past, think again. Even with modern technology and communication systems, vessels still keep vanishing. The most recent accident was also the most disastrous for the last 30 years, and it happened on October 1, 2015. That day, the huge cargo ship SS El Faro went missing in the area of the Bermuda Triangle. It was a 790-foot vessel carrying numerous containers, vehicles, and trailers. It departed from Jacksonville, Florida with a crew of 33 people and was heading for Puerto Rico. At the same time, a powerful tropical storm materialized hundreds of miles away. After some time, it reached the SS El Faro and started to circle the ship. After that, no word or signal was received from the crew. Unexpectedly, the hurricane calmed down as suddenly as it started. The search continued for weeks, and the SS El Faro was finally spotted. It was positioned upright and in one piece at a depth of 15,000 feet in the Atlantic. The search party found no trace of the crew. In the summer of 2003, Frank and Romina Leone, a newly married couple, decided to go fishing on their spick-and-span 16-foot boat. They left Boynton Beach in Florida, but never came back. After several days of constant searching, the U.S. Coast Guard stopped the rescue mission. The cargo freight Genesis left the port of Spain in 1999 and was headed for St. Vincent in the Caribbean Sea. Its cargo weighed 465 tons and included bricks, concrete slabs, and water tanks. At some point, a vessel that was sailing nearby got a distress call from Genesis. The crew reported they had problems with the bilge pump. After this desperate call for help, communications were lost. Despite a U.S. Coast Guard search that covered 33,000 square miles, the ship was never seen again. The 522-foot cargo ship SS Poet left Philadelphia on October 24, 1980. It was heading for Egypt, carrying corn and 34 crew members. The ship's skipper had spent 41 years of his life at sea, and the rest of the crew were just as experienced. A day after the ship had left on what turned out to be its last voyage, a bizarre storm with 30-foot-high waves and powerful winds covered the North Atlantic. And while the SS Poet was used to much worse weather conditions, it disappeared without a trace. There was a large-scale search involving 9 aircraft and covering nearly 400,000 square miles. It lasted 10 days, but failed to spot anything at all that could betray the location of the missing ship. These are just a few of the tragedies closely connected with the Devil's Triangle. For years, people had been theorizing about what forces might stand behind the catastrophes until scientists claimed to have unveiled the mystery. The most popular theories have been as follows. Methane gas. Some researchers believe that ships and planes crash and disappear in the area due to methane gas. And it has indeed been proved that there are massive stores of this gas in some areas of the ocean floor. Therefore, when gas is released into the water, the process can sink ships and make planes crash. Potentially, it could happen so quickly that a craft in distress wouldn't have time to send an SOS. Wormholes. This theory is preferred by those who love sci-fi. In short, a wormhole is a space-time shortcut. While the existence of wormholes hasn't been proven yet, this doesn't stop some people from believing that this phenomenon is what causes vanishings in the Bermuda Triangle. Waterspouts. Now, waterspouts, or more simply tornadoes at sea, are said to have been spotted in the Bermuda Triangle. This weather phenomenon sucks water many feet up into the air. Potentially, this can make a ship disappear with eerie ease. A hole in the electromagnetic forces of the planet. Compasses are reported to malfunction in the Bermuda Triangle. This place is one of the few on Earth where compasses have problems pointing north. This can lead to sailors and pilots going off their course. Human error. Well, this theory sounds rather disappointing for those who love mysteries. However, some people are sure that all the crashes and disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle happen due to people's mistakes. There are too many confusing islands that are hard to distinguish from one another, as well as difficult weather conditions. Aliens. Yep. Of course, no mystery can exist without an explanation of alien interference. It's just too convenient to blame disappearances on extraterrestrial forces. Though why aliens would choose exactly this area for their abductions remains unknown. Well, this is all well and good, but none of these theories has been fortified with evidence. On the other hand, the most recent findings of scientists allow them to claim that the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle has finally been solved. The culprits are huge sea monsters. But when we say monsters, we don't mean living creatures. They are enormous rogue waves that were believed to be a myth. Scientists denied the existence of rogue waves as a natural phenomenon until 1995. That was the year when a gigantic 61-foot-high wave that later got the name the DRAUPNER wave was spotted via a satellite. Rogue waves are terrifying and anomalous. They are massive walls of water that move across the ocean. You will never wish to encounter a rogue wave when at sea, as it easily wipes out anything it comes across. Rogue waves can have a force of 9 metric tons per square foot. To compare, the average 40-foot-high wave has a force of only 0.5 metric tons per square foot. While rogue waves were considered a rarity whose existence was doubted, they may be much more common than scientists had previously believed. Wolfgang Rosenthal is a scientist from Germany who assisted the European Space Agency in the research of rogue waves with the use of a radar satellite. He says that at any given moment, about 10 of these terrifying giants are moving somewhere in the oceans. Rogue waves are completely different from tsunamis induced by earthquakes. The latter are almost invisible at sea, but when they reach the shore, they sweep away everything that's in their way. As for rogue waves, they almost never come close to land. These giants can reach a whopping 82 feet, which is the size of an 8-story building. But that's not the limit. According to scientists' calculations, the theoretical maximum of a rogue wave could be 198 feet. That's higher than the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, D.C. But such a wave is yet to be seen. Large rogue waves are usually about 100 feet high. One more extremely dangerous thing about rogue waves is holes in the sea. These are troughs that precede giant waves. For a ship, the consequences of such a plunge will most likely be catastrophic. After researchers from all over the world accepted the fact that rogue waves indeed existed, they started to develop research strategies and discuss their findings. It turned out that one of the regions where rogue waves were most likely to appear was the Gulf Stream off the eastern United States, exactly where it flows through the Bermuda Triangle. Rogue waves spring up in the open ocean as if from nowhere. But in fact, lots of small waves gather into a giant one, which then sucks water and energy from those surrounding it. These bizarre waves can also appear after the collision of two wave systems moving perpendicular to each other. The Bermuda Triangle, in this case, has all the necessary conditions for the appearance of rogue waves. There are storms from the north and south colliding together, and researchers have measured waves as high as 100 feet there. This might also explain why ships don't send out any distress signals. They just don't have enough time. After all, rogue waves pop up out of the blue. The only thing that remains unclear is that the existence of rogue waves doesn't explain vanishing planes. But let's wait and see. The research is ongoing. So, do you believe that rogue waves cause all the turmoil in the Bermuda Triangle? Or are you a supporter of another theory? Like aliens?
The legend of the Bermuda Triangle. It's one of the few mysteries we still can't solve. Let's rewind back about 600 years. The story begins with an Italian man. He wanted to sail across the ocean to reach Asia, a continent rich with spices, silk, minerals, that kind of stuff. Getting there by land would take ridiculously long, so he figured, hey, why not to build some sturdy ships, gather a couple of sailors and set off to Asia? What could go wrong? That man was Christopher Columbus, by the way. In 1492, with a little help from Spain's royal family, he embarked on his journey. Everything was going well. Apart from totally going the wrong way. But as he got to the end of his voyage, he noticed something very strange. He didn't know it at the time, but he was sailing through the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The BT, the point of no return, the scary place between Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and Florida. There are loads of stories of ships, boats, and planes disappearing into this mysterious realm. Some were found years later, and some disappeared off the face of the earth, lying undiscovered at the bottom of the ocean. Maybe. We know one thing for sure. We have no clue what's going on over there. People have been trying to figure it out for years, but nothing. Zip, nada. So what was it that Christopher Columbus saw that fateful evening? What freaked him out so bad? According to his logs, Columbus saw a huge flash in the sky. I don't care how tough you are, if you're sailing around with no clue where you are, and then you see a massive flash right in front of you, you'd find me hiding below deck, chewing on a lemon or something. That's not the only sea mystery out there, not by a long shot. Heard of the Kraken? A giant squid that can swallow a whole ship. No? You're lucky. Imagine cruising on a ship, wind in your hair, hands on your hips, like, those old pirate movies. Then a huge squid creeps up on you from deep down in the cold, dark water. It wraps its tentacles around the ship and drags the whole thing to the bottom of the ocean. Good thing you packed a life raft. How about a colossal sea serpent chasing your boat at full speed looking for a midday snack? That thing is called a leviathan, and you better hope it's not real. Or sirens, mean but beautiful creatures of the sea. They like to hang out on rocks and sing karaoke. Their magical voices attract sailors who sail their ships right into the sharp rocks. Now, mermaids, on the other hand, totally awesome. They like karaoke too, but they're not into the whole ship smashing thing. Good old mermaids. They're real, right? And let's not forget peg-legged pirates. Arr! Lootin', raidin', saying arr every 2 seconds. Arr! What else do those guys do all day? So back to our Italian friend, Columbus. Maybe he just saw a thunderstorm. Duh, why didn't he think of that? Well, I'm not 600 years old, and I wasn't there. How on earth would I know? Weird thing is, he never mentioned any huge waves or heavy rain. No strong winds either. Just a single flash in the sky. Maybe some dolphins were setting off fireworks or something. After the flash, Columbus wrote that his compass needle started dancing all over the place. This keeps getting weirder and weirder. His report ends with a friendly turtle with sunglasses jumping out of the water, pushing the 3 ships to shore, and everyone went out to get hot dogs. Only kidding. So, what happened? Scientists now think they've got the answer. Drum roll. An asteroid crashed into the ocean. Case closed. But wait, what about that stuff with the compass? What does that have to do with an asteroid? Asteroids come in all different shapes and sizes, but they're like chocolate eggs, the best part's on the inside. They're packed full of minerals and metals worth trillions of dollars. Scientists are even trying to figure out how to land on a big one and mine it. It'd have to be a really big one. I'm talking about an asteroid the size of Rhode Island. Why? Because chances are it'd have a magnetic field around it, making it way easier to land on. Scientists think that the magnetic fields around some asteroids can last for millions of years. Mystery solved. Maybe. Captain Christopher Columbus's compass went cuckoo crazy because of an asteroid crashing right in front of him. That actually might explain some other strange Bermuda tales. About 100 years ago, the USS CYCLOPS left Barbados on its way to Baltimore and sailed right through the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. It never arrived. Search teams spent ages looking, but they couldn't find anything. It just vanished, just like that. In 1945, 5 military planes vanished without a trace. They flew right over the Bermuda Triangle. So if there is an asteroid sitting at the bottom of the sea somewhere, why is it still causing problems 500 years later? Radar and old-school compasses rely on the Earth's magnetic field. Radar's how they track flights all around the world. A faulty radar reading? That would be a problem. Try putting a magnet near a compass and see what happens. The compass needle is its own little magnet, always pointing north. But if you put it next to a strong enough magnet, the needle will spin around to face it. What if that compass is all you've got to guide you to shore? Chinese ship captains were the first to invent compasses. Before that, people used to sail along the shore, or just to islands that they could see. Having compasses meant those early sailors could write down where they went, so other people could get there too. So now that we have all this new tech, the question is that asteroid even still down there? How would we get down there to find out? It wouldn't be the first ever deep sea dive. We've already been down the Mariana Trench, the deepest one on Earth. The Mariana Trench makes climbing Mount Everest look like a joke. Only 2 people have ever been down there. Because it's so deep, the water pressure is insane. The only way down is in a high-tech tank, something that won't crush in on itself under pressure. And that kind of thing doesn't come cheap. Down there, just a lot of darkness, quiet and beauty, and a bunch of weird animals. The Bermuda Triangle isn't as deep as the Mariana Trench, so we might get down there one day. We might see that asteroid that Columbus saw, this time with millions of tiny fish on it who've made it their home. All those lost ships and planes that disappeared should be down there somewhere. Or we might see something we were never expecting. We might find ancient species of squid, sharks, and turtles with special skills like night vision. We might find gold. Loads of ships full of gold and silver sank on their way back to Europe from the Americas. Some wrecks had evidence of fire. Some were split in 2. Most of them are still out there. Japanese divers once found an ancient underwater pyramid-looking thing. They don't even know for sure if it was natural or man-made. Up in the Baltic Sea, someone snapped a bizarre sonar image of a spaceship? Or just a strange-looking rock? A Swiss lake was hiding a sweet vintage car. After it was dragged to shore and cleaned, it was sold for over $350,000, and the tires still had air in them. Japanese fishermen once found a small round boat that had a glass top on it. There was a red-haired woman inside. Some thought it was a fairy tale come true. Some thought she was a magical creature, and some thought she was a spy. The Bermuda Triangle sounds scary, but the islands near it are awesome. Bermuda is a tiny island where they speak English, and the other points of the triangle are the tip of Florida and the American island of Puerto Rico.
What's the most mysterious and blood-chilling place on Earth? The refrigerator at the blood bank. Well, its job is to chill blood. Anyway, the first thing that comes to many minds is the infamous Bermuda Triangle. This area earned its terrifying reputation by swallowing countless ships and airplanes, leaving no trace behind. But recently, the Bermuda Triangle has added another mystery to its record. Cuban Coast Guard came across a ship that had gone missing more than 90 years ago. Ooh, truth or fiction? It was November 29, 1925. When the SS Cotopaxi left Charleston, South Carolina and headed for Havana, Cuba, carrying a big load of coal and 32 crew members. The story has it that several days later, the steamer ran into a violent storm, got water in its hold, and started to tilt dramatically. On December 1st, the ship sent out a distress call, and since then, nothing was ever heard from the crew again. The ship seemed to have vanished into thin air until 2018. On May 18th, the Cuban Coast Guard announced that they had come across a ship that wasn't answering their calls. Since it happened close to a military zone with limited access, it caused a bit of turmoil. The mysterious ship was nearing the island west of Havana and seemed to ignore all attempts by the Coast Guard to communicate. That's why 3 other vessels surrounded and blocked the intruder. Even at first sight, the ship looked bizarre. Rusty and run down, it seemed to drift mindlessly, without any destination in mind. And when the crew climbed on board the ship, which indeed seemed to have been abandoned for decades, they found nothing but more oddities. First, there was not a living soul on board. It baffled the guards to no end. A ship sailing across the ocean, unmanned and uncontrolled. But that wasn't the only abnormality they found. However unbelievable it may sound, on closer inspection, the Coast Guard realized that the discovered ship was SS Cotopaxi, lost in the waters of the North Atlantic Ocean almost 90 years before. What gave it away was the chief's logbook, related to the CLINCHFIELD Navigation Company, which was the very company SS Cotopaxi belonged to. After Cuban experts confirmed the authenticity of the logbook, researchers got super excited. And no wonder, now they could finally find out what happened to the ship in 1925. Unfortunately soon, they realized that the logbook wasn't living up to their expectations. It contained tons of interesting information about the everyday life of the ship's crew, but nothing at all about what caused the disappearance of the massive ship. On December 1, 1925, the entries in the book simply came to an abrupt stop. It was the very day when the ship sent out a distress call and then stopped replying to any radio signals. So, as you see, the mysterious finding brought more questions than answers. If SS Cotopaxi sank almost 9 decades ago, how did it reappear on the surface? What happened to the crew, and how did they vanish without a trace? And finally, does the finding mean that the Bermuda Triangle has started to return the prey it's been collecting for centuries? But the worst thing about this discovery is that it might have never happened. Soon after this breaking news appeared in different mass media sources, many people started to question the truthfulness of the story. Not only did it seem too unbelievable to be real, but there was also no convincing evidence that the ship had been found in the first place. There were indeed numerous photos of a rusty steamer on the internet, but was it SS Cotopaxi? Unlikely. That's why there's probably no use in combing through the Atlantic Ocean in search of other long-lost vessels and planes just yet. In other words, it really was fake news. On the other hand, over centuries, there have been so many mysterious disappearances in that area that the chances are high that you'll find one or two ships that fell victim to the infamous triangle. Maybe it'll be the Patriot, a passenger schooner that left Charleston, South Carolina on December 30, 1812, and headed for New York City. The ship, which had Theodosia Burr Aston on board, the daughter of former American Vice President Aaron Burr, went missing soon after departure, and no one ever heard from the schooner again. Or you may come across SS El Faro, a much more recent disappearance. This cargo ship left Jacksonville, Florida on October 1, 2015, with 33 crew members and countless vehicles, trailers, and containers on board. The 790-foot vessel was supposed to deliver its load to Puerto Rico, but something went terribly wrong. A violent tropical storm that started miles away suddenly transformed into a powerful hurricane that rushed toward El Faro. It started to circle around the cargo ship, making communication from the vessel go silent. But the most shocking thing was that after causing all this turmoil, the hurricane miraculously retreated in the same direction it came from. Weeks later, after a thorough and extensive search, rescuers finally located the ship. It was still in one piece and sitting upright on the bottom at a depth of 15,000 feet. But the blood-chilling truth was that there was no trace of any of the crew members on board. The Bermuda Triangle had already gained popularity in the 15th century when Christopher Columbus documented weird compass readings and bizarre lights in the area. Its nickname, Hurricane Alley, speaks for itself. The weird thing about the Bermuda Triangle is not that too many ships and planes disappear there. After all, it's the menacing and unpredictable Atlantic Ocean. But that, in most cases, even if the wreckage is found, there are no people on board, living or not. One of the most infamous Bermuda Triangle disappearances of all times was USS CYCLOPS, a huge carrier ship that used to supply fuel to the American fleet. On January 8, 1918, heavy and full of manganese ores, the ship departed from Rio de Janeiro and headed for Baltimore. Being only a few years old, the ship shouldn't have experienced any problems, and all 309 people on board felt safe and calm. But this feeling turned out to be deceptive, because somewhere around March 4, 1918, the ship disappeared into thin air without sending out a distress call or indicating it was having problems in any other way. In the history of the U.S. Navy, it remains the accident which caused the largest loss of life at sea. As for airplanes, probably the most inexplicable disappearance happened on December 5, 1945, and got the name the Lost Patrol. Flight 19 was the code name for 5 bomber planes that flew from the naval base in Florida on a training flight. No one knows for sure what happened to the planes, but they never returned to the base. Most experts believe that the commander of this group, Charles Taylor, got lost and led the planes in the wrong direction. Those machines could land on water, so hypothetically, after getting low on fuel, the pilots could ditch and wait for help, rocking on the surface of the ocean. But that didn't happen. Although 2 rescue Martin Mariner planes were searching the area all through the night and the next day, they found no trace of the 5 disappeared planes. But the most spine-chilling coincidence was that one of the rescue planes failed to return to the base as well. All 6 planes vanished into thin air as if they had never existed. There have been several other plane disappearances when the aircraft went off the radars and never returned. In some cases, pilots had time to send out a Mayday distress call. In others, they disappeared at the blink of an eye when everything seemed to be going perfectly fine. Well, no doubt, it all looks very suspicious, and the notoriety of the Bermuda Triangle might be well earned. But think of this. The area of the Bermuda Triangle varies from 500,000 to 1.5 million square miles, depending on the person describing the anomalous zone. Besides, it's one of the most heavily traveled routes in the world, with thousands of vessels crossing it to get to the ports of Europe, America, and the Caribbean. On the other hand, only several dozen ships and planes have been lost in the Bermuda Triangle over the last centuries. I mean, if you think about it, it's not that much more than any other dangerous area of the ocean, right?